Welcome to I'm a Perfectionist, Get Me Out of Here, where we are all allowed to be perfectly imperfect. I'm Eileen Webb. I'm a psychologist, CBT and EMDR therapist, anxiety mastery coach, author of 4 books, and podcaster as well. Holly, welcome to I'm a Perfectionist, Get Me Out of Here.
Thank you.
Such an honor to have you here. I'm really, really excited because the whole idea we have with this podcast is to break the stigma,
Mm-hmm.
the stigma of mental health, and that it is normal. Everyone can have mental health problems in a period of their lives. So why don't we start by looking at the reason why people should stay and listen to this story, your special story.
Well, first, I guess I think everybody has a special story, and I think it's the reason I guess people should listen to this particular story is I feel incredibly lucky to be working in the role that I have now, given how little chance I had to survive beyond the age of 13, 14. So to be doing something now that gives me a platform to really advocate for mental health, users of mental health products nationally, and have that influence internationally, to think about that even being an option when I was so unwell as a teenager, I would hope could give some degree of inspiration and hope to those people that are in that now and feeling like there is no way out or there is no kind of alternative future. So I would just hope that this acts as perhaps just a glimmer of hope and inspiration for people that might be really, really struggling.
It certainly is. It certainly is. Do you want to tell a little bit about what you do now, and then we can go back to how you got there?
Yeah. So I my current role, it's a bit dry, let's just say. So my current role,
I was very impressed.
it is interesting. I think just so I work for the Medicines and Healthcare Products Regulatory Agency. So I work for the regulator of medicines and medical devices, which includes software as a medical device for the UK. And my role at the moment, I lead a project that explores the regulation and evaluation of digital mental health technologies. So we are funded by Wellcome, which again is quite unique in that working for a government agency, there's always scrapping for money and trying to get, the business as usual done. Whereas this has allowed us to really focus on a therapeutic area, to really carefully think about the regulations that apply to digital mental health. And as you know, kind of we all use technology in so many different ways now for so many different purposes. And it's kind of part of the fabric of our everyday lives, that actually so are mental health technologies. And some out there aren't brilliant and they're not very well evidenced for what they're designed to do, whereas some others are very effective and they can actually support not only with the user but with the way in which a healthcare professional might reduce their administrative burden in assessing somebody, or writing up notes and things like that. So there are lots of different ways that you can use digital technology, but we need to make sure that they're appropriately regulated and evaluated. So my work is very much about clarifying the regulations and making sure that products that reach patients are safe and effective. So there's my pitch, sorry, for what I do now. That's my plug for my work.
Like when, for example, people go on the App Store and they download some Overcome Depression app, for example, those are the ones that we are talking about, right? They are included.
Yeah.
of
Potentially, yes. So
and they don't all come to you, I guess. I don't
no,
if
no.
I don't know if there is yet a rule that includes everything, because technology just seems to be a little bit, the law around technology and AI seems to be a little bit all over the place. They can't seem to catch up with everything quick as things are moving.
Yeah.
When I
Yeah.
thought about, it was something I thought about making an app. And then I met you at the conference, and
And then you went, oh, maybe not.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly that.
no,
And there are regulations in place, and I think part of my role is to try and educate stakeholders about the existence of the regulations. So I think that's the key thing, is that I think there's almost a misnomer that regulations don't exist for these technologies, and actually they do. And we have guidance available on our website, and we've actually published, as part of this project, specific guidance for digital mental health. And it very much does what you've just described. It draws that line between a well-being product and a medical device. So the products that you can download off the App Store, some of them are, they don't do a lot. They might just be perhaps a diary that you can enter information in, but it's not using software or AI to process that information or give you suggestions or personalize your outcome in any way. When it starts to do that and it has this medical purpose, and again, all of this is in our guidance, then it's starting to breach into that territory of medical device, and that's when it needs to be regulated. So, and it's important really for a user or somebody that's recommending a technology to understand the difference between an unregulated product, which can still be very helpful. We're not saying that unregulated technologies can't be of use, but they still all need to be very well evidenced, and they need to be created with those people with lived experience rather than just somebody in their shed creating an app. And it's not for commercial gain. Like there is, we see a lot of technologies out there that, that are very well marketed, but actually we need to make sure that they are grounded in good evidence base, and that actually they're going to help people and not essentially cause harm.
yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah,
It's about making sure that it doesn't cause harm, as long as
totally.
it's helpful.
Yeah.
So it is now, and I can see you are shining when you're talking about your work, your style, you're clearly happy about what you do and find it fulfilling. I can see that in your face and your eyes. And you're a mom as well?
I
Yeah,
am.
yeah.
Yeah. I
So
have 2 little girls. Yeah.
2 little girls.
I have 2. Yes.
Oh, I
Yeah.
didn't know that. I thought there was only one. So wow,
No. I
amazing.
have 2. One of them's actually downstairs. She's in front of the TV at the moment, and the other, so I have an 8-year-old and a 3-year-old. So yeah,
But
busy.
things have not always been this lovely,
No.
have they? Would
Mm.
you like to take us back to when things have been difficult for you, when in your earlier ages?
Yeah. So I developed an eating disorder when I was in my early teens. So timings are a little bit vague, as you can probably imagine, because I was quite unwell for quite a long time. But symptoms started to show around about 11, 12. So the kind of start of secondary school, really. And it coincided with parents separating.
Ah, okay. So that was going to be my question.
Mm.
Were there any factors happening around
Yeah.
you?
Yeah, very much so. And again, the typical the typical triggers for somebody who maybe has perfectionistic tendencies. I went to a girls' grammar school, which was an assessment entry school. So there was already quite a lot of expectation and competition. All girls, as well, as I mentioned, can imagine that
I can. I was in all girls school.
Oh, okay.
Boarding school myself.
Yeah,
Girls boarding school. It doesn't get any worse than that. So,
exactly. It's just a breeding ground, I think, for perfectionists and yeah, all of that kind of, sorry, all of those kind of traits, I think. But yeah, so I think the starting school and my parents separating in not the best of circumstances was one of those things that I think triggered perhaps, and an awareness also. So where you become a bit more aware of your body, you become a bit more aware of changes, and that feels perhaps a little out of control at that time. And it was just seemed like an obvious. I remember actually the very first moment that kind of, I guess I tipped into these behaviors, and that will never leave me, I guess. And obviously I don't want to share that necessarily, but I think there was very much a defining point and triggers for where the eating disorder stemmed from. And I do think that if it hadn't been an eating disorder, it would have been potentially something else that would have been some sort of addictive behavior that maybe wasn't particularly functional. But yeah, it became quite a severe eating disorder. And that developed into, so that was anorexia. And
so how were you? How was it manifesting itself in terms of what were your rules? Did you have any rules? Like I can only
all the rules. Yeah, it
uh,
was
that's
food restriction. Yeah,
is it
and
kind of trying to have some kind of control
yeah,
over your
totally
life,
that.
isn't it? That's
It
an
was
attempt to. I can't control what's happening at school. I can't control what's happening to my mom and dad. I can't control anything in my life.
mm,
So I'm going to try and control what I put in my body.
yeah,
That's the
exactly that.
only thing I can control. And
Yeah,
yeah,
totally that. And it was not only what you put in, it was exercise as well. Um so a complete obsession with exercise, food intake, um just it became all consuming. I can't even begin to describe how consuming it was. And it was just all I thought about. It was all I could care about as well, because it became my world entirely. But it was so dysfunctional in terms of how to manage the situation at the time that it nearly killed me. Um, and I was so driven to be good at having an eating disorder because, again, this is the kind of bizarre, toxic thinking that you have when you have an eating disorder. Is it's this drive to do the best at anything. And even if that means being the best at losing weight, the best at, doing as much exercise as you can on as little fuel as possible, it it is it's so hard to describe that thinking process to somebody. But when you are told that you now no longer have a choice, and it's bizarre, the irony is that you take so much control over your food and exercise that you do it to such a degree that someone says you've done this to death now and I'm taking the control out of this, and like not I, someone else, a health professional, takes that control out away, is like equally the most liberating but scariest thing in the world to be told, because the grip that it has on you is so intense that you just desperately want someone to take that away from you, but you equally are so scared of having the control lifted as well. It's a very bizarre thinking process to go through in that moment. But yeah, it was a moment where my weight dropped so low that I was told I had 2 weeks to live unless I started to eat. So I was
that's
taken to the hospital.
that's really scary, isn't it? So
Mm.
what happens when you can see how much weight you have lost? How, because I have seen a picture where someone with anorexia looking at the mirror and they
Mhm.
see themselves like
Huge.
overweight,
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah.
Is that how it feels?
Yeah.
That even though your body is absolutely exhausted of all resources, it's
Mhm.
got nothing more. There's nothing, there's no fat, anything left of it. It's skin and bones, and you can't see that.
No, not at all. And it is, I mean, there are lots of crossovers with body dysmorphia and eating disorders, and it is entirely that. So you have an entirely distorted view of yourself. And if somebody else were to say, I can see bones protruding, I can see your ribs, I can see your spine, like, that doesn't register. It's not, it's almost irrelevant for somebody to try and paint an accurate picture back, because your belief is that it's not enough, it's not small enough, that you still see yourself as big, as overweight, as too much. So it's a very, again, very odd concept to describe, but I think the image that you've just given there is very much how somebody with an eating disorder, and my experience anyway, is that looking at yourself in the mirror or looking at pictures, it was an uncomfortable experience, and still is, actually, to some extent. In fact, just to give you an example, so I'm sorry, I'm wearing these still because I did a high rocks yesterday. So the tendencies for obsessions with exercise. I also realized I've got chalk on my jumper from the event yesterday. I did a high rocks event, so I'm still obsessed with exercise.
We are making sure we are perfectly imperfect here.
Exactly, I know. So
Yeah.
what is that I can see is some sort of random thing on my
I
jumper.
was just drooling.
I was just dribbling. It was just toothpaste. Yeah, exactly. Come on, like working mum. I've got, like, this is it. And so I've still got my ribbons on from my event yesterday, and all the pictures have just gone up. And I have this weird, it's almost like this morbid obsession with, like, looking at photos, but I don't look at them and go, oh, I look strong in that. I'm like, I'm still too big. Like, it's just, again, that's why I tend not to take selfies. Like, I don't like being in pictures. So there's still traits that I still struggle with. And then if you're away for work, there's always somebody that wants to take a picture. It's always something that wants to go on LinkedIn.
I took your pictures and sent them to you when you were on the stage.
Yeah, exactly that. And it's just, yeah, some of those things you just have to kind of have a little chat with yourself and be like, oh, it's creeping back in again. Just, don't let it. So yeah, it's still there, but not in that dysmorphic way that it once was.
Incredible. It's incredible to hear this insight from someone who lived through it, came out the other side. I just saw you became a bit emotional earlier as you were talking about how it felt for you, and no matter what everyone said, you still felt big. How do you feel about that teenage girl when you think about her now? What was it? What was in that emotion?
I think there's a mixture. I'm trying not to get emotional now, because it never goes. It never leaves. The traits are still there. The traits are always kind of hidden, but you manage them. But I think what I would say to her is that there's always a reason to not be the best at being unwell. Like, there's always something else that you can prove that you're good at, that you're successful at, and this is the critical thing that I have to remind myself, that you're good enough at. And I think this is where you come from, this whole sort of narrative about perfectionism. It's bending that rule and that being flexible enough in that rule for living about being perfection, that you're actually good enough, that you can be a good enough mum, that you can be a good enough colleague, that you can be a good enough leader, you can be a good enough partner, you know, all of those things. Instead of striving for perfection, which nobody can achieve, I would probably tell her that actually somebody will love you and appreciate you, and you need to appreciate you for who you are and not who it is that you're trying to be. Because nobody wants a bag of bones or a non-existent Holly, or, you know, that's the key thing, is that I was doing a very good job at dying, and that's no good for anyone. And I think just reminding that young girl of the other sort of benefits that come with succeeding in life and doing things that give you more experience and enjoying food and enjoying being with people, a part of life and a part of like love and part of loving yourself and being with others. I just didn't feel that at the time. So I think having that conversation, sorry, I feel like I've rambled into a whole little strange narrative there, but I think, yeah, just giving her a bit more of a pep talk about you don't need to be perfect, because it's not actually, life's not about any of that, and it will limit you.
Yeah, and it's not achievable. You only destroy yourself along the
Exactly.
way.
Exactly.
Whatever you're looking into, being everything to everyone, never being able to say no, fear of failure, fear of success.
Yeah.
With everything, it's not achievable. The perfect it doesn't exist, as you know, wrote the book about it. And as you say, it is really a lot about awareness. It doesn't go away. It does not go away, that people pleasing perfectionism comes in many different ways. But for example, with people pleasing, or trying to do everything to a level that there's no mistake, for example, it doesn't go away, but you become more and more aware, and you're like, oh, I know what's happening, and I'm not going to jump into that trap.
Yeah, totally.
I'm not going to take that bait. And there was when someone told you, right, you're dying and we are taking control. What happened then? You mentioned, it's really interesting, you mentioned that in one hand it was scary to give control to somebody else, but in another hand it was also a relief.
Yeah, very much so. And I think because at that moment I was so physically unwell, I was exhausted. Physically, I think essentially organs were starting to shut down, and I'd probably maintained a cover for so long that the thought of somebody coming and saying, you can stop now. And it was literally that. It was I think it was my netball coach, actually. She took me aside, because I loved all sports, as you can imagine. And it wasn't just because it was fitness, that's my nature. I love exercise, I love competing. And she said to me, I'm not having you on the team. Like, she took me aside and said, what did you have for dinner last night? And I told her, and she said, I don't believe you.
Was that really what you had, or were you making it up?
I was making it up. Yeah, I'd made it up. And she said, I don't believe you. She said, you're not on the team anymore, and I'm speaking to your parents. And then it just snowballed from there. And then the next thing I knew, it was right, we've got you a space at a child and adolescent psychiatric unit. You either go voluntarily or you'll be sectioned. And a sectioning means that you won't be able to, a sectioning, sorry, it was really awful language there. If you were to be sectioned, it would limit potentially options for, I was told this, but again, it's just difficult at the time to know whether or not this is accurate. But I was told, it would limit my options for work and travel. And it was just, again, this sort of stigma that was attached to kind of having to go into a psychiatric hospital. So I don't know if it was a bit of scaremongering at the time, but I was given that kind of option, and I chose to go voluntarily. But as you described that, that moment, it was very much a relief. It was oh, thank God, I don't have to do this anymore.
If perfectionism is getting in the way of you living your life to the full, then check out my new book, Perfectly Imperfect: Cultivating Your Self-Worth in a Demanding World. It's based on cognitive behavioral principles.
What I'm wondering is, your netball coach actually said you're not on the team anymore, but this could not have been where people started noticing. People must have started noticing what's going on. Your parents, your teachers, friends. I wonder what your parents have been saying to you, or your teachers, whether anyone wanted to kind of take control of this before your coach.
So I think it's an interesting one, particularly when you talk about parents and the interventions that parents can or choose to or choose not to make. And I do still think there's a lot more that needs to be done around how to support parents to appropriately discuss eating disordered behaviours with their child that don't come across in a way that's purely frustration and well, if you don't eat this, then you can't have this, or why are you choosing to do this to yourself? Why? Like, this approach just puts up a barrier, and it causes more friction between the child and the parent. And I also think that, and my mum's not going to listen to this, she's not a podcast listener, my mum had and has still a very dysfunctional relationship with food. So I learned some of my behaviours from her. And we don't have a very good relationship now. And I think there was an element of, she was slightly jealous that I was better at losing weight than her. So I don't actually think she knew how to address it, because she could see the embodiment of what she was trying to achieve in her daughter and was getting frustrated, and just met me with frustration and annoyance rather than understanding and empathy. And so that just carried on throughout my teens, which is an interesting.
I wonder, this is quite deep, and may or may not be relevant, but I just wonder whether that divorce and the anger might have caused, well, I'm going to do this to you. I know that you try to lose weight all the time, and I'm going to do it better than you do, and upset you because this is what you caused me. I mean, as I said, this is quite it could be a very deep subconscious level, but I wonder whether, because you mentioned that you have seen your mom always have an unhealthy relationship with food, so that there's social learning in there. And there's also social learning, oh, she's always trying to lose weight or stay
Yeah.
a certain weight, and then going, see, I've done it better than you.
Yeah, potentially. I think the interesting thing with eating disorders is I don't think there's ever really one function of it. And it's not unusual for there to be relationship difficulties amongst the eating disordered person and their parents, or both one or both parents, and for there to be traits shared between the parent and the child. And so there may well have been an element of, well, screw you, I'll prove that I can do this better, and really hurt you in that way. Because, you know, if you can't communicate to your parent in a, you know, a verbal way about how much you feel upset about the situation, you know, you can do it in a very physical, very abjectly kind of clear way in your like shrinking body that becomes very clear about the fact that you're pissed off with the situation. You know, that can be, it can be probably seen as that as well. I'm not sure for me it was the main driver, because I do think it was more about my own view of myself, and the values that I had about control. So yeah, but I do think there's probably an element of that.
So what about other people, the teachers, who could have actually, with parent, oh, if you don't eat this, you're not doing that, or look, you're looking like a bag of bones, and then it all makes you defensive. How about teachers who could have perhaps taken action, or friends?
Yeah, good question. And I just think people don't know how to approach somebody. I don't think people know. And I think that goes for any kind of mental illness still. You're frightened of making it worse, or just people don't know how to start the conversation. I mean, what do you say? Like, what is the opening line when you go, you know, I've seen it, and I've been there and been the one that's in that position. And yet I'll go to the gym and I can clearly see that someone's unwell. Like, it's obvious. There's a certain frame and physique of people that have got an eating disorder that is just very clear in some instances. And even then, knowing how it feels to have one, I'm still clueless as to, you know, and it's not my place. I don't know this person. But what do you say? And I think that's the same thing as if, you know, if someone's struggling with depression or anxiety or, you know, trauma, you don't want to make somebody worse. You don't want to be that person that kind of potentially triggers something in some, but actually that's almost irrelevant, because what they're wanting is desperately some validation for how what they're experiencing, and anything would have probably been better than just ignoring it and being like, oh, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say to Holly. She's clearly not eating. So we're just gonna ignore that one and hope someone else addresses it. And I think that's the issue, is you think someone else will address the issue because you don't feel equipped to have the conversation. But let's be honest, nobody's equipped to have the conversation. Not even necessarily registered healthcare professionals always equipped to, you know, say the right thing or do the right thing. But I do think there was some of that at play, and just people didn't know what to say. And as they got smaller and smaller, they were just like, shit, like, sorry, swearing. I just think, you know, I just think people were just like, I really don't know what to do here. And am I going to get left with this kind of you know, outburst of kind of despair and not knowing what to do? And people then feel responsible for then having to do something about it. So I think there's a few things perhaps that prevent people from having a conversation with somebody that looks like they're struggling. but I don't know what you.
Maybe Elizabeth, now as we are trying to break the stigma around mental health, maybe people are a little bit more open now than then. However, it's still, the more we just keep encouraging to say, hey, I'm here if you want to talk. Are you, just a question, are you okay? Just a question, are you okay? Is everything okay? Is there anything I can do for you? Not necessarily going, oh, something is wrong with you, you don't seem okay, or you're always like this. So rather than blame, which is taken as attack, and when we perceive someone attacking us, then we go into defense, which is fight or flight. And when we go into defense, we don't listen to anybody.
No.
However, open questions like, are you okay, is not attack, and opens up a conversation. So that's perhaps a good way. It took a while for you to recover, didn't it?
Yeah. It took all of my teenage years. So I was discharged just before I turned 18, after a cyclical episodes of I think I was in and out of the hospital 3 times. So I would have a period, like an inpatient stay for anywhere between sort of 9 months and a year, would reach a target weight, be discharged back to the community, and then lo and behold, my weight dropped, and then I'd have to go back into hospital again. So that happened 3 times from what I can recall, possibly even 4 for a short period, but I think for 3 times over a 4.5 year period.
So you would stay there at the hospital for 9 months to a year?
Yeah. So it's an inpatient stay. So I was admitted to, like I say, a child and adolescent psychiatric hospital. I went to the school on site, and then when I was at an acceptable enough weight to be able to go to my own school, I would get a taxi there and back. And I actually I self-taught my GCSEs. So I was not always well enough to be in school for the lessons, so they would send me work for me to do at the hospital or in the school there. So I self-taught my GCSEs.
Incredible.
Pardon, sorry.
Incredible. So in the meanwhile, you are actually just continuing with your education as well while you are working on healing.
Yeah, but then, and again, this is another trait that I still have now, is taking on too much and doing too much. It could have been very easy to just say, right, let's just write off GCSEs, let's write off education, don't worry about trying to take any exams at this point. But that was not an option. That was no way was that an option for me. And it's unfortunately some of that still pervasive now. But it was a long time being very unwell. And it had very much dictated my adolescence, which is a shame, but that experience has very much shaped who I am now, my ability to reflect on that experience in that period of time and use it as a bit of a superpower, to be honest. And I'm not saying that, having to have such an experience of a mental health condition is necessary for anyone to be successful at all. But I've had to really transform myself from a period of absolute despair and really being low and not wanting to be here at all, like, having some really dark, distressing thoughts that I never would ever wish on anyone, But coming from that to what I'm doing now and being able to still use it as a driving force for what I'm doing now, but also, you know, for being the best parent, again, it's creeping in here, being the best parent I can be, but being good enough at the parenting and being able to reflect on some of those traits that I can see creeping in my parenting and going, right, you cannot project that onto your children. Like, just stop, hold on, what are you talking about here? And even with friends as well, and creeping in, you know, conversations around other people, you know, not wanting to do what they want in their lives, or, you know, they're putting on hold kind of ambitions for, you know, writing a book, or, you know, traveling, and but it's because of something else, or because, you know, they want, you know, if they were going to write a book, it's because they want to be perfect. And I, you know, I'm very much the kind of person that'll be like, but it's never going to be perfect, it's going to be good enough. And actually it's the process of doing things that is what life's about, not having a perfect outcome. And as I'm talking to friends and saying this, I'm like, oh my God, Holly, can you just listen to your own advice for once? It's mad, isn't it? It really is, that you can talk to others in a really compassionate way. But when you start to even think about talking to yourself like that, no, non-negotiable. It's just ridiculous. It's, yeah. So I'm starting to be a bit more compassionate to myself now.
And that's the thing, isn't it? That we can easily have, until we are aware, double standards.
Oh, yeah.
That we wouldn't call other people stupid, but we call ourselves that if we do something, when they do the same thing, it would be like, don't worry, it's okay, everyone makes mistakes. But when you're a perfectionist, it's not acceptable. You have a different standard for yourself, and you can put yourself down. And how is that helping your self-esteem? How is that helping your confidence, that you, with the smallest mistake, with the smallest thing that someone might tell you, that you go into overthinking and self-blaming, critical self, and putting yourself down? Definitely different standards. And as you say, it's so important to gain awareness of that and say, hang on a moment, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't talk like this to my daughter. I wouldn't talk like this to my best friend. That's not what I would tell them. What would I tell them? And then speak like that to yourself as well. That's
hard to do, though, isn't it? In those moments.
I think it's practice.
Yeah.
I've started to find it easier and easier.
After reading your book, it absolutely is becoming easier. But they're the things that, you're right, it is about practice, and it's about being compassionate to yourself as you would to someone else. Because I think you're your own worst critic. You always will be.
And when you actually crack that of becoming your own best friend, you will never be alone.
Ever. Absolutely. And I love that thought. And I think that's so true, because you're the one that can be your biggest critic, but also your biggest cheerleader. And I think that knowing that, and knowing that you don't necessarily need anyone else to be your own cheerleader, is one of the most empowering things about being human, about being able to have that ability to self-reflect and use your experience positively.
It's because it's that validation. You cannot wait for constant validation from outside world, and you cannot build your confidence and your humanity and your self-worth on outside validation. That validation needs to come from inside.
Absolutely.
This has been incredible, absolutely amazing to speak with you. And you know, I think we both shed a tear.
I know, I was wiping away tears at one point, sorry.
Well, you know, also because we have connected so nicely the moment we met at the conference. So I'm really grateful that you wanted to share your experience with our audience today. Is there anything that you would like to add before we say goodbye to our listeners?
I just want to thank you so much for inviting me to be a guest. I think I don't very often get the opportunity to speak about all of my experience because it's such a personal one. So I think I just want to thank you really for asking the difficult questions that I think people do avoid, and that it's so important to share some of these stories to break the stigma. I think you're doing a wonderful job at breaking that stigma and bringing to light some of the experiences that we all go through, and shining a light on some of those. But really, we've all got our own challenges, all got our own history that kind of make up who we are. And it's just making sure that we're all brave enough to use that experience to build on who we want to be in future. And that, yeah, it's not about being perfect, it's about being good enough. So yeah, thank you.
And share with others who might be
struggling
going through and may just need that one sentence.
Yeah.
One word, just that experience someone has been through to help them.
Yeah.
As well. Thank you so much, Holly.
Thank you.
It's just been really a great pleasure to have you here as a guest.
Thank you.
And bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us in I'm a Perfectionist, Get Me Out of Here podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please do leave stars and a review. Help me spread the word by sharing this with your friends and family. My practical manual, Transformation Through the Power of Quotes, will help you or someone you know get through tough times and feel happier. It is now available on Amazon paperback and Kindle. You can also check out our website, mindandmood.co.uk. Thank you again, and remember, imperfect action is better than perfect inaction. Bye for now.